Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. If you tune in now or later, we appreciate it. Glad to be back here this evening on a Friday the 13th. How's it going tonight, boys?
All good here.
All's well here.
No dogs. It's almost game day, baby.
Game day is just hours away, so we're less than 24 hours from kickoff. So we're always excited about that.
Our first night kick of the season.
Yep, first prime time game.
Going up to the Bluegrass State.
Easy dub.
Hoping to kick
You
some
just had
hillbillies.
you just had to say it. You just had to say it.
Yep.
You just
Because it's
had
true.
you just mm. Anyway.
Hey, I like the confidence. So, you
No,
know,
I agree with you, Matthew. If you put our team on the field in the same Kentucky team showed up last week against South Carolina,
It'll be like Florida
it's
State all over again.
it will get ugly. That's
Hmm. It'll be like Florida State score all over again. I'm telling you, like the fact that South Carolina did that to them at home and we're way better than South Carolina, I think it's going to look a lot like the Florida State score.
you know.
I
Okay.
feel it. I feel it within.
It's in your bones
uh, somewhere. Spirit,
somewhere.
bones. Yeah,
That's
it's
probably
there.
what you ate for dinner, though.
I was about to say, are you sure that's not just some gas or something that's building up in there?
It might be. I don't know. We'll see.
Um, well, yeah, I mean, I've been saying all week after watching last week's games for both teams, I think it can go one of two ways. It's either going to be, you know, an ugly blowout win for Georgia because, like you just said, Matthew, they if they looked that bad against South Carolina, and I don't mean to keep crapping on South Carolina because they're an SEC team, they've got Division I players, they got 5 stars on that team.
Hey, they're in
Um,
first place in the SEC right now. You should put some respect on their name.
yeah, and I'll give them their respect for right now, for being in first place. That's a good point, but it's either going to go really poorly for Kentucky if they can't stop the run and if you know if they're going to be that porous defensively and that bad on offense and at quarterback. But it also, you know, one of the cool things I think maybe Dad you brought up this week when we were talking, and I'm going to kind of steal it here if you don't mind, but every time we go to Kentucky, what was it? The average margin of victory is like 10 points.
You're stealing my thunder. I was going to give you my stat of the night.
We'll give the other stat about the home games.
I don't remember which one you're talking about, to be honest, but I not to steal your thunder or anything, but basically what I was going to say was Kirby Smart is an 8-0 record versus Kentucky.
I'd be 9-0.
And in those games, UGA is averaging scoring 29.3 points per game in those 8 games, while only giving up 11.1 versus Kentucky. So the average margin of victory is 18.2 points per game in the 8 game win streak that Kirby has against Kentucky or the Georgia. And I read somewhere else earlier today that really we have a 14 game win streak currently against Kentucky. We won the last 14 in a row. So if we win tomorrow, it'll be 15 straight games that we've won against Kentucky. So it really shouldn't be a shock to anybody if Georgia beats Kentucky. You know, that's pretty standard. Um, but and the way that I just thought that was quite interesting when I came across that information. The average since Kirby's been our coach, we've averaged beating them by almost 20 points a game.
And I think
Average.
It's,
at home it's like 24, I think, and then on the road it's like 10. So that makes sense. Matthew?
I was just gonna say, like, it's gonna continue that way until they actually get some more athletes, like how we have it, like an all-around good team. And don't get me wrong, Kentucky's a really good team because they're in the SEC. Most SEC schools are good, but just knowing that they could have more potential and more room to grow compared to Georgia is a little scary, but I know Georgia's going to continue to do their thing as long as Kirby Smart's the coach.
No,
With Kirby Smart, and we've learned this several years ago with him, his approach to everything is you're not playing the opponent, you're playing to your standard.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you're playing. You're playing to your game, you're playing your standard. Whether or not you meet that every game is the results are the results at the end of that.
And you got to play the game in order to win the game. You can't just show up. You can't be like that person on the sideline and just, or that person in class that gets a participation grade because they were just part of the group. Like you got to perform and you got to show it.
yeah, no participation trophies around here. We've got two shiny gold ones from back-to-back seasons a couple years ago. So
The
that's the
other point,
standard.
yeah, the other point about that is um my mind just went totally blank just for a second. Go ahead. If I remember it, I'll bring it back up.
No, I mean, I think another thing to consider about this game is that it calls for some rain to start coming in about kickoff. So we know we've seen like Georgia play Kentucky in a monsoon just, a few years ago up there, and it was a tight, ugly, or maybe it was the home game a few years ago that I'm thinking of, 2019, where it was just a knock 'em out, drag 'em out fight, and it was just a ground and pound, an old school style game. So it could very well be one of those, and that's why I think ultimately we we probably it probably ends up being closer longer than we think.
Thing I just remember what I was going to say is when's the last time you saw with Kirby Smart as our coach, Georgia come out flat or not looking prepared or like they were, not ready to take the field? And look, nothing against Coach Rick. I love the man. He was he's a great coach and everything like that, but it never failed once or maybe even twice a year or so. Every season, we would just have a game where it would just blow your mind. You're like, how in the world do we look so bad? You know, it was against some of the worst opponents, like, Vanderbilt or, something along those lines. One of the small FCS schools that we were playing. You with Kirby in charge, you just don't see that anymore. It really doesn't ever happen. I can't remember the last game that happened.
Well, I wouldn't say that we came out flat, but the one of the last games that I went to, so I went to Missouri and Ole Miss last season, and both of those
The
games,
Missouri game was horrible.
well, we didn't start flat there. Um, Missouri's just good. They're a really good team, and they came with a plan.
That was
Um,
on the road up there last year, right?
no, no, I was there. It was at
Mm-mm.
home,
I was at home.
and
Me and Micah went.
then the one I was trying to think of, maybe it was the season before last, South Carolina. We came out at home kind of sluggish, in the early part of the season, but we ended up pulling away late to make it look better as far as the score goes. But I mean, yeah, it's very rare to, and I'm the other game that I'm thinking of that came to mind was our Sugar Bowl game against Texas.
That's the last one that I really remember seeing that, we just weren't right that night.
Yeah.
That game, it just didn't look like we normally look. And that's my point. I'm not talking about having slow starts. Every team has slow starts and blah blah blah. But I mean, I'm just talking about you just can't explain why guys are playing the way they're playing. And it just doesn't look to the standard, right? And that was the game that I was thinking while I was saying that was the last time I probably could remember was that Sugar Bowl against Texas. And if you remember back at that game, that was probably the last game we had a lot of big time players opt out.
Yep.
And ever since that point, and I think some of them might have taken the staff by surprise in that game. So Kirby doesn't play that game anymore. If you're going to opt out, he wants to know so he can make plans, arrangements, and have your person that's stepping up and taking your place ready to go. So we don't look like that in the game again, like Florida State looked against us in the last bowl game, because they had so many people opt out. So he that's that it's funny you mentioned that because that's the last time I honestly remember seeing us play where you're just like, what the heck is going on out there?
Matthew, do you have another example maybe that comes to mind?
Um, Not that really comes to mind. It's just, yeah, we do have slow starts, but like Dad was saying, Kirby holds them to a standard, and he also, um, regardless of who it is, it could be um, an SEC school, it could be a top Power Five school that we could be playing, or it could be some small FBS school. He is on everybody's tail about making sure everything is right every single play. And if you're not, you're out of the game or you're getting yelled at by him. So it's definitely as soon as Kirby Smart started coaching at UGA, the standard and the um how should I put it? The atmosphere at UGA turned around drastically,
The,
I think.
I think the word you were looking for there is culture.
Mhm.
That too, yeah. Atmosphere, culture, everything was just flipped. The script flipped, and now we're a dynasty at that point.
Yeah, and it's a machine, so that's why your point to start the show tonight was, it's just like rinse and repeat, right? It's just another game, it's the next one on the schedule.
Yep.
It's the only one that we're focused on. I'm sure I know the team has certain goals. They talk about it, but they know that they've got to go 1-0 every week to get to that goal. So,
Uh, and I will say too, they probably practiced a little bit for this game 2 weeks ago just because of who we played last week. Maybe a little bit, I think, just because
Yeah,
we
that's
really,
that's probably understandable because we knew we would roll out there against Tennessee
yeah,
Tech, and you didn't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of time,
you could
you know,
practice like three
over preparing
days.
for them. So you're probably right. So are we
They've
ready to get
been
into the
prepared
games this week
for sure. I'm ready.
and
I'm
our
ready to go
picks for
6 and
this
0.
week?
6 and 0.
Let's
Here I
see.
come.
So I need to share my screen here.
Mike is gonna go 0 and 6.
no, that was a one-time possibility, and I didn't even go 0-6.
Okay, y'all tell me, make sure you see that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, this is the slate for this week's uh pick'em. And as you can see, we're choosing to do the UGA Kentucky game, of course, LSU at South Carolina, Alabama at Wisconsin, Missouri taking on Boston College up in Como, Texas A&M at Florida, and then Oregon at Oregon State in the Civil War game. So who wants to start us off here? You talking about UGA versus Kentucky? We've talked a little bit about it. Anybody got anything else to say much about the Georgia game this weekend?
I think
I
we pretty much covered it.
yeah,
I was thinking one other thing really. We're talking about how to gauge this game. As you can see, Micah's taking Kentucky plus the points. He doesn't have very much faith in our Bulldogs cover this game. So rah rah, way to go, Micah.
hey,
Me and
look,
Matthew both are standing firm behind the dogs and expecting, I guess, a blowout. Because for us to cover it will definitely have to be a blowout game.
yep,
But we're talking about Georgia, and Georgia plays at a certain standard, right? Well, like the stat that I read earlier, we average beating them in the last 8 games by uh, almost 20 points a game. Well, would you say that this Kentucky team is better than average of what we've faced the last 8 years, or worse than average of what we faced the last 8 seasons?
I think that's to be determined. I mean, we don't know. We'll
I mean,
see.
there's only two games so far, but from what you've seen so far, I would say it tends to lean towards probably being a below average Kentucky team. So,
Maybe with the potential of an above average quarterback if he plays like that.
see, talking about Brock, it's funny you mentioned him. I mean, he's a damn good dog. Give him his due. He graduated from here before he transferred there this season. And I know he did it just so he could get some playing time because he knew he wasn't going to be playing much this season behind Carson Beck. He wasn't going to overtake Carson Beck as the starter. Um, he hasn't really played much live games. And even when he came in
Mhm.
for us, he wasn't really running the offense much when he came in. He was just there at mop up time to turn around and basically hand off the ball, and we're milking the clock to run out the game. So his experience just isn't there. So he's having to learn how to be a starter for an SEC team, and that's a big step from what he was at. So um, it's going to be interesting watching the rest of the season. I hope he gets things. He's talented enough. I hope he gets things figured out, and he's talented enough to be better than what he showed. But he's got to have help on that offensive line. I
Yep.
mean, he had no time whatsoever to throw or do anything in that game against South Carolina last weekend. And if that's the way his season is going to go, everybody's going to say, "Oh, he's a bust. We never should have brought him in. He's a transfer bust or a 5-star bust." Because he. But I think when you look at it deeper, it's more than just on his shoulders.
Yeah,
Well,
it's definitely gonna be a rude awakening once he plays us this tomorrow. That's for sure.
well,
So
and just to add to that, so y'all are saying I don't have faith. It's not that I got burned by a big spread last week. This is the biggest spread on the slate, and so like you
you got
said,
burned by everything last week, if I remember right. I think you went 1-5, if memory
You should
serves
have
me
been 0
correct.
and
So
6.
yeah, and
right.
it really easily could have been 0-6.
You
So
got lucky.
So
you were more than burned. I think you were toast.
my point being, you know, I'm going to take the points here because I'm not 100% sure. I kind of tipped my hand opening the show. I think it's going to be closer than we think for longer than
Yeah,
we think.
I
So,
heard you. I knew it was coming. I heard you. You just playing cautious. I'm a little scared. I want to give so
hey,
many points up to the Kentucky Wildcats.
when it's a you know, 31-10 game don't come crying to me. So,
It won't. It'll be a
Well, hey,
62 to 10 game.
I don't have much room to talk. I took uh, Tennessee Tech in the points last week, so but the difference is I won that one.
and we'll see who if I win this one.
We'll see. All right, so moving on to game number 2 on the slate, LSU minus 6.5 points at South Carolina.
Go Cox.
What do you what do you think, Matthew? I'm dying to hear what you have to say.
I think this season LSU is in shambles. They haven't really looked that good
I don't
these
know if
past
I'd
two
go that
games.
far. But
Um, they really haven't. They haven't showed me at least my point of view and how I see games go. They haven't really proved me much of anything. And if South Carolina has the jump like they did against Kentucky, I have a strong feeling South Carolina will win by a field goal or a touchdown and cover the spread.
Well, a field goal wouldn't cover it, so you would lose. That's why I took LSU. So,
it's hard. It's
also,
hard.
Nope.
I'll say it again. Last week, Kentucky
You're
had the
just
quarterback advantage. He looked awful. He didn't have time to throw. So LSU should have the quarterback advantage. They should have the better offense. So give me the Tigers.
no. My thought is South Carolina's a confident team coming off of playing Kentucky right now, and they're playing at home. You're giving a
That's another
home
thing.
team, a confident home teams, almost basically a touchdown. You got to beat them by a touchdown in order to cover. So, and the other part of that, when I was looking at that game, is I wouldn't say LSU's in shambles. What I will say is LSU still is struggling on defense. Their defense, it's I don't know what has happened to them over the last several years, but their defense is just, you know, the lack of a
Coach.
better term, you know. Um, so that's the reason why I'm going to take the points for South Carolina at home and join my bud Matthew on the Joe Cox train.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
take any more of this Go Cox talk.
Yep. Yep.
Jeez. Why don't y'all just get a
Oh,
bunch
It
of
probably won't. Now, Matthew, I'll tell you, I probably won't be on that train very long because have you seen their schedule?
oh,
You
I
know,
know.
it's
Me
it's it's
neither.
it's it's going to get
I'm riding
ugly.
it right now. I'm riding it right now. No homo.
But I think South Carolina is going to score enough points to where LSU won't be able to uh, cover the 6.5.
And I will pitch say this. Hopefully, if not this coming up week, the week after that, we might have a special guest. So just wanted to
A
shout
little
that out.
tease there. A little
Yeah, a
tease.
little tease. So we're working things out right now as we speak, but just wanted to shout that right now.
All right. And then the next, anybody have anything else to say about that game? Are we done with
I'm
LSU,
good.
South Carolina? All right. Then next on the slate, we got Alabama going traveling on the road up to Wisconsin. The Cheeseheads are hosting Elephants. Roll Tide. Alabama's favored by 15.5. Micah once again decided to take the points.
have
Why?
y'all seen Alabama play this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, they always come
Mm-hmm.
back and boat race everybody.
Have they boat raced
Have
anybody?
you, all right, have you, here's my point about this game. Alabama's Alabama until they aren't Alabama anymore. right? And they're playing a middle of the road Big Ten team.
Yeah.
And athletes on Alabama's team aren't the same as athletes on Wisconsin's team. That's my
Base.
view of it. So that's the reason why I said, even on the road, I'm going to give up 15 and a half. I can't believe that, but it's Alabama. I think they'll beat them. I think they're going to smoke them. I
Well,
do. I think Alabama's going to
I
smoke them.
I
here,
agree.
here's my first not so serious take, and then I'll get to my serious one about this. Go Cheeseheads. That's gonna be that's right in my wheelhouse. So cheese is my favorite food. So we'll just put that out there. Then to be serious, I mean, Alabama really struggled against UCF again, or USF, sorry. One of those,
USF.
yeah. And
One of those effing schools.
yeah, one of those Florida schools. And as you have seen, the whole state of Florida looks like a hot garbage other than Miami. So um, I just wouldn't have a ton of
Go Gators.
confidence. Yeah, I would not have a ton of confidence in Alabama going on the road to Madison, Wisconsin. Um, a middle of the road Big Ten team is still better than USF. So I'll take the points.
What was the final score of the game last week for Alabama?
A lot to a little.
I'm drawing a blank. I want to say it was like 42-16.
I'm gonna look it
Like
up.
that.
I
Am I
got
in the
you.
ballpark?
But it was close for a long time, and then they
It
started
can be
getting
close for a long time.
turnovers, and then they
Okay.
Well,
started
see,
getting, yeah,
Alabama had a bunch of turnovers, if I remember right, in that game too. That's
yeah.
what
It was
kept
just
them
and
from
penalties.
running them out of the building
All right.
earlier.
Do y'all want the score?
Yes, I
Yes.
want to score.
It was 42-16. You're right about that.
I was right.
So good
So
good job there. But what was the score going into the fourth quarter? Do you know
it
that?
doesn't matter. The game's not over.
Okay, but going into the fourth quarter, what was the score?
It doesn't matter. The game's not over.
I think it was like
It was it was
14,
it was
14
16
to
to
something.
14 or 14 to 13 or something like that.
It was 14-6. USF scored the only points of the third quarter, and it was 14-13 going into the fourth quarter. So halftime, it was 14 to
And
6.
nobody
Then
gives away third quarter, cover trophies.
and then Alabama puts 28 on them in the fourth.
And Alabama can do that to Wisconsin too. And it's guess what? That's called cover, right?
It it is. I want to know where y'all started sipping the Kool-Aid of Alabama and South Carolina.
Hey, I'm just playing pick 'em. My loyalties lie with UGA, and that's it. I'm just having fun playing pick 'em.
I'm just trying to beat dad.
Well,
Well,
glad
then
that motivates you.
don't pick the same team as him then if you want to beat him.
He's
Well, he's
copying
not.
me.
Yeah, I am copying him. As you can see on the grid, I copied him.
Yep.
I will say, I think I mentioned this to Micah a little bit earlier. It's interesting that there's not one game where we all three pick it the same way this week. That was interesting. So, anything else to say about Alabama, Wisconsin, Mr. Matthew?
Tied.
That's not in my vocabulary.
It is for me this week. Roll time. All right. This next game is probably the one that I went back and forth on most, if I had to be honest. Missouri playing at home, favored by 16 and a half over Boston College coming to town. So, what are your thoughts on this game, Micah?
My first thought is, what are you struggling with? This I don't know. To me, as confident as y'all are in Alabama, that's how confident I am in Missouri this season.
See, I think Missouri's a good team. I don't think they've been very, yeah, they haven't come anywhere close to being tested and played much of anybody with a pulse yet.
That's going to kind of be the knock on them all season because of their schedule.
Right.
A weak schedule. A weak schedule.
Well,
But
you can't say that they play in the SEC. I disagree with that, but it's one of the lighter ones that you could get in the SEC. I will give you that, but it's not anywhere close to a weak schedule because it has 8 SEC teams on it.
One of them's not us.
Yeah,
yeah,
they don't play us. You're right. Good for
And they don't
them.
play Texas. And they don't play. Do they play Alabama? I think.
I think they do play Alabama this year.
Okay,
Alabama's
that's
their
their.
only
Somebody can
game.
pull up their schedule and let us know, but the reason why I struggled, went back and forth a little bit on this one is because I watched most of that Boston College Florida State game. Boston College is a sneaky good team. They got a new, I think they've got a new coach this year. I think this is
Bill
his first
O'Brien.
year. Yeah. And, he's a dang good coach. He's been around for a while. He's been at several places and he works wonders with offense and, quarterbacks are always tearing things up and he's got a talented quarterback. Kid's from Georgia and he's a dual threat guy. And if we know anything at being Georgia fans, playing against a dual threat guy would it just fits sometimes. Those guys could just absolutely ruin your game plan. So the way I see it, BC, they're playing with house money in this matchup. They're 2-0 on the year. Nobody expected them to be 2-0 at this point. Even if they lose, so what? It's not an ACC game for them. You know, it's not going to affect them, trying to win their conference and, make a run or whatever. Plus, they run the ball really, really well. I want to say they average like 250 to 280 yards rushing a game or something like that so far. I know it's only been 2 games, but still, that's more than most other teams rush for. And if they can be successful um, with their run game and their quarterback, keeping the Missouri defense, which yeah, they're really good to off kilter some, that'll shorten the game. And then that's 16 and a half points in my pocket.
Sure.
Well, to answer,
I think Missouri's going to win the game, just so we're clear. I honestly think Missouri's going to win the game. I just don't think they're going to win it by 17 points.
yeah. Well,
That's my thing. I think Boston College is going to be tough enough of a test and have good enough skill players and a good enough defense to match up to where they give Missouri a run for the money and keep it close, closer than 17 points.
the reason why I picked Missouri and I'm so confident in Missouri is because, like I said earlier, I've seen Missouri with my own eyes, and it's a lot of the same team. That team went toe to toe with Georgia. So, you can say something about schedule. You can say it's, Boston College and all that. Um, Missouri's going to have a good, well-rounded team this season, no matter who they play. They do play Alabama at Alabama at the end of October, so that'll be a good litmus test for them. And then they also play Oklahoma the very next week at home. So that's a tough 2 game stretch for them. The
Both of
rest,
those are on the road for them.
no, Alabama on the road, Oklahoma at home.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we'll learn a lot about Missouri,
I think
going
you'll
into
learn more about
November.
them this weekend because like I said, they're actually going to be playing a team that has a little bit of a pulse. I'm not sure exactly how good Boston College is going to be at the end of the year when we look back on it, but I can tell you they're better than what we thought they were going to be already.
Yeah. Matthew?
Yeah, I picked Missouri, just because it's a home game for them. I know Georgia struggles there. I feel like Boston College will struggle, and they might keep it somewhat close, but I think Missouri is just gonna uh, cover this spread and um, in a way blow them out. Not it'd be like 35 to 10 or something like that. I feel like
Agreed here.
And so it's a another note, it's an early kickoff because it's Central Time Zone. So it says 12:45 our time, 11:45 their time, and Boston College has to go there. So that's a tough place to play. Georgia went there and almost lost a couple years ago. Um,
noon kickoff.
no, it was a night game for us, but still, I mean, it's
Um,
just a tough place to play no matter what time you're
yeah,
playing.
yeah, 100%.
Agree. So that's my reasoning, and I could be end up, we come on here Sunday night and y'all can roast me because I was totally wrong, and you know
You will.
they got they totally shellacked Boston College like the ACC team that they are. So
Yep.
anyway, all right. So then we got Texas A&M favored by 4.5 points, traveling down to the swamp to play our least favorite team in the world, the dang Gators.
Them damn
Thoughts?
Gators.
Thoughts? What do we think on this one? Obviously, me and Micah think Texas A&M will cover 4.5 points against Florida, and Matthew does not. So why do you think that way, Matthew? What gave you the confidence to choose the Gators?
Being in the swamp.
Did you watch the Florida Miami game?
Texas A&M's not Miami.
You know where that game was played? The Florida
Texas
Miami game?
A&M. Texas A&M is not
It was in the
Miami.
swamp.
Okay. And I I really didn't want to pick either
So
team for this, really,
Yeah.
because they're
well, you got
both
to pick
hot
one. I'm
trash.
just trying to figure out why you picked Florida.
I just did a coin flip,
Oh, did you? And it came
really.
up Gator, huh?
Yeah,
Okay, I can appreciate that.
because I
Me,
mean
before last
both are just
before the
hot trash, and I don't like either team.
I agree with that take.
I can understand that. I agree with that too. But I will say there's level of trash, right? And I mean,
Oh,
the Gators so far are just the worst god awful cute crap trash that you can think of right now. They just don't know which ends up. They came out of nowhere. They beat Sanford last week. Before last week they lost 6 straight games. So to me,
yep,
before I picked Florida, um, they're going to have to prove they can win against anybody that actually has a pulse. To
yeah,
me, and Texas A&M is a decent enough team where are they as good as Miami? Well, no. I don't think they have to be. All they got to do is cover 4.5 points. Miami blew Florida's doors off, and that was a home game for Florida too. Tell me how bad it's going to be for Bill Napier if in their and I guess have all of their games so far been at home.
Yeah.
yeah,
They played Miami at home, they played Sanford at home, and now they're playing Texas A&M at home, back to back to back. That's kind of interesting. But if they Texas A&M gets on a roll or something, and they just blow the doors off of Florida again, and now Florida's sitting there at 1-2, and the two teams they played that were big boy schools just destroyed them. Yeah, that seat will get amazingly piping hot. I do believe he may not even be coach by the time they come to play Georgia in the
Right.
in Jacksonville if some of that stuff starts happening. But I don't know. I just couldn't put my faith in picking Florida. I don't care if they're at home or what. They just they just look totally screwed up to me.
Yeah, there's just I don't I've talked a lot about this. As y'all both know, my brother-in-law is a big Florida fan. Um, and you know, there's the normal fanatic, delusion there, but he also has started to like see how just putrid everything is for them, and he's like hoping that they fire Billy Napier at this point because, he just sees the writing on the wall and it's like, it's not good. There's
I'm
no culture, there's no structure. You're getting your doors blown by good teams and you barely beat the bad teams that you should absolutely obliterate because you're Florida and you should have really the same talent as Alabama and Georgia and everybody else. So, um, yeah, this Florida is just, yeah, I'm with Dad. There's levels to this being hot garbage, as we're saying, and
Florida's definitely a worse level of hot garbage than Texas A&M to me anyway, in my opinion.
yeah, Florida's the bottom of the barrel. I would not be shocked if they finish last in the SEC this year,
Oh no, they
and
will.
and I
They'll be in the running definitely.
and I really don't think Napier will be around for the Georgia game. I don't.
And part of that's going to be because of their schedule too. They're going to be near the end, bottom of the ACC because their schedule is just so so brutal. I mean, it's I don't see how he survives this year. And then last but not least, we got the Civil War. Oregon traveling to Oregon State. Oregon's favored by 16 and a half. There's that number again. So Micah and myself, we're on the Beaver bandwagon here and saying, give me those two plus touchdowns, almost three scores. Well, it is three scores. Um, and Matthew, you're standing there playing your flag with the Ducks. So speak up and tell us how Oregon's going to cover 16 and a half this game.
I feel like Dylan Gabriel is going to finally wake up because this is old rivalry, and you know I feel like it's definitely going to kick his career into gear, especially at Oregon now, or now that he is at Oregon. Um, and with that, I feel like Oregon's gonna cover the spread. It might be close throughout the game, but I think they will pull it out in the end.
What
Yeah.
about you, Micah?
Well, I mean that's the key to this game. Does Dylan Gabriel get started, looking like the quarterback that um Oregon and their staff there and like they want to see out of him. I just don't think so because you're going on the road in a rivalry game. Oregon State always seems to give Oregon fits in this game, just like, you know, we have some games where we have fits with Georgia Tech or we used to, or we have games where Auburn gives us fits, and like we just talked about Missouri. So I I don't see. I think Oregon misses Bo Nix. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they do.
You stole my line.
Yeah, they miss Bo Nix right now. Check down Bo, but obviously that's what they need because they looked like they were firing on all cylinders last season with him, and they haven't quite gotten going yet. I think Oregon has a far superior roster in this game, but it's like something's just a little off there, so I'm not gonna lay that many points. I'm still on the Oregon bandwagon. I think they will be really good at the end of the season, but it's gonna take them some time to get there. So give me the Beavers.
Plus the 16.5. Yeah, I'm on that bandwagon. I agree with what you're saying. This game is always nuts between these two teams. It just always is. Even when they were both like 12 teams, like they should be. Um, they've met every year, and I hope they continue to meet every year, even though Oregon's now in the Big Ten. But the games are nuts. They're usually classics, and they're usually close, and they're usually hard fought games. I think Oregon's going to end up towards the end of this, towards as the season progresses, just getting better and better as they get healthier and healthier, and they learn how to move on and live without having Bo Nix as their quarterback. I'm having a hard time saying that too, but um, the other thing that is kind of interesting to me about this is I was curious what you guys might think. You think Oregon State may have a little bit of an extra chip on their shoulder for this game, this particular matchup against Oregon, because they got hurt or whatever because they got left behind in Pac 2.
Yeah, they
That
could.
that may be a little bit of extra fuel for their fire. I mean, they're playing at home. Their fans are going to be rabid, crazy. It's their in-state rival, right?
Yep.
And they got left behind. They didn't get invited to the Big Ten party. So now they're part of the Pac 2, which news this week evidently is going to become the Pac 6 pretty soon. I
Hmm.
heard. So I guess they're rebuilding by taking over the WAC teams, right? Western,
They're
and
just
isn't that where all those teams came from? The WAC.
Whack. Yep.
they're just
So the Pac's
getting
becoming taking over the WAC, you know, and it's becoming the Pac 6 pack, I guess you'd say.
they should
But
switch it to that.
yeah, 6 pack.
I have that.
So, but I just I don't know. That's a lot of points for me to give up if I were to take Oregon right now, based on how they've played so far this season against the teams previously that I don't think are as good as Oregon State.
Yeah.
And so I think Oregon State's going to cover that. And, Oregon I actually hope Oregon wins the game uh, more than I don't think they're going to beat them by 17 points once again. Same thing as the Missouri Boston College game for me. I think Missouri's going to win that. I just don't think they're going to win it by 17.
Another thing to note on this one, it's not a night game in Corvallis, but it's a 3:30 Eastern, so still an early kickoff out there.
That'll be
Um,
12:30.
and every time, like I said, every time Oregon goes to Corvallis, it's just like you look up and you're like, "Whoa, what's the score there? What happened there?" So just keep an eye on that one. I do think Oregon pulls it out. And I hope they do too. I'll be rooting for them. I'm a big fan of them, and obviously their coach coming from Georgia, so like him a lot. He's doing a lot of the right things. I think that's why a lot of people pick them to win the Big Ten in their first season in the Big Ten because they just like the direction the program's headed. So
Yeah, I was one of those who thought they probably had a good chance. Um, they just got to get some things figured out between now and as the season progresses to live up to some of that preseason hype. Who knows? This may be one of the years that they don't live up to that preseason hype because they had too many changes, from last season. Um, Uh, Now, if I had to guess between all the Pac-12 teams that joined the Big Ten, which one do I think has the best chance of probably winning the league? I would probably still say Oregon, but I'm leaning more and more towards USC.
I agree with that. I think USC might win out.
Can't believe y'all are saying that.
They play defense this year.
The
That's going to be the difference. I mean, Lincoln Riley can call offense, and his teams can put up numbers on offense like like it's going out of style. Their problem has always been their defense. Well, the first two games this year against LSU and gosh, whoever else it was they played, I forget who the second game was, but the problem wasn't defense.
that's a good point. Um,
So if they start playing anywhere close to decent defense to match up with the offensive firepower that they always have, that's gonna be a tough out for a lot of those Big Ten teams.
the thing that I still worry about with them though is just size. I think Oregon's got more size than they do to match up on both sides of the line.
Well, it's gonna be interesting to watch either way. The other part that stinks for all those Pac-12 teams that joined the Big Ten is now they just have to do so much more travel.
Mhm.
That's another hidden thing that you just don't really, the drain on them having to travel
Traveling.
all the way across the country sometimes to play, you know, these games. But then
That's what they
again,
signed up
some of the
for.
Big Ten teams are traveling out west to play them too at their home. So it works both ways.
Hey, and just to go back to your point, USC's second week, last week, their matchup, it was Utah State.
That was the score.
It was 48-0, but it's Utah freaking State.
You know what it
Defense.
would have been last year? It would have been 48 to
Mm.
45 with a field goal to kick it for USC
No,
to, yes, it would have. It would have been 48-45 last year with their trash defense. And they
it
would have
might
had to
have
kick a field goal at the end to beat Utah State.
it might have been 48-30. I'll give you that.
Okay, that's a big difference, 30 points. They put a goose egg.
30
Look
goose egg.
in the last couple of years to see if they put a goose egg on anybody they played. I
Probably
don't
not.
remember it.
Probably not. I
Let's
mean, y'all are
talk.
right. The defense is vastly improved, but they've been playing a lot of especially against LSU, it was a lot of zone, a lot of like deep, cover too deep, like don't get beat over the top. It's a lot of it's like just don't get beat. So let's see how that works against like Ohio State. They play Ohio State. So Matthew, you said they might win out. So are they beating Ohio State? Are you saying that?
Is it home or away?
Let's look.
It doesn't matter.
Actually, you know what? I stand corrected. They don't play Ohio
Play
State.
Michigan this year.
They play Michigan next week.
E- Easy dub.
We talked about this last week on the show. So Michigan next week on the road. Y'all think is an easy dub for USC?
Who's on the road?
USC goes on the road to Michigan
Do they
next
go
week.
to the big house to play Michigan at home? Well, I think they've got as good a chance as anybody to go in there and beat Michigan at home with their offense. I mean, we saw Michigan couldn't handle Texas's offense, and that's pretty dang similar to what USC has on
She.
offense.
Mm-hmm. Because
But Tech
Texas and USC go back and forth sometimes.
but Texas again, their offensive line. Those did you see those dudes? And
They're
They
they're
look
not
like
Georgia.
Georgia offensive
massive.
line.
Yeah, they're massive. You don't say that about USC.
Maybe
They're
things are
quick though.
changing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not look, last week I stuck up for Michigan no longer. I only did that because
Mm,
they were playing at home. and I thought they would show a pulse in a big game coming off a national
You
championship.
messed up.
No, I mean, I'm not
You're
mad about
right to
it.
think. Yeah, you were right to think the way that you thought. But they just didn't have the horses to match up Texas this season.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
just don't. They're not the same team.
no more. I mean, it's last time I'm picking Michigan all
I don't know
season.
about that. I don't know about that.
Put them on next week. I won't pick them.
I'm never
They
going to
might
pick
be on
them.
here. We'll see. But anyway, I guess that wraps up our Friday night pick'em show, right? Got 6 games on the slate, a bunch of good games to watch. Some people say it's a slow week for college football, but hey, it's still college football.
There's still a few good games tomorrow for sure. They're not all the greatest, but I mean, there's games tomorrow.
Look, you've got one game in each window to watch tomorrow. You've got a good noon game, you got a good 3:30 game, and you got a good 7:30 game tomorrow.
That's all you need.
So, look, a slow week in this time of year for college football is better than any other week that we just went through over the last, what, how many months without it?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Fortunately, I'm probably going to miss a lot of the earlier games.
Why?
that's right, y'all are leaving.
Me and Mom are heading down to Daytona Beach tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's right.
So we'll be traveling. Try to get down there in plenty of time to still watch the Georgia game, though.
Pull it up on your
But,
phone.
but the earlier games will be on the road, I'm sure, for a lot of those.
Yeah, well, y'all enjoy that. Be safe. I'll be joining y'all down there in a couple of weeks. So, um, but yeah, definitely had a lot of fun tonight. This was another good pick'em show. I'm actually glad that we decided to start doing this because I think it's gonna add some flavor and some interest and just make it more fun for us.
Or are we going to watch the hype video for the game?
Yeah, we can try that. I mean, I know when we were testing it out, it may look kind of fuzzy. So,
Or just give it a shot, see how it works.
yeah, but I'll go
If it
ahead and
doesn't
pull
work,
it up.
we don't have to do it again.
But yeah, I do want to give credit to the Georgia football account on X. They put this out. This is their week 3 hype video. And it's narrated by Arian Smith, the speedster. So let me see if I can get this going. To the Georgia football account on X. They put this out.
Turn off your volume, Matthew.
Sorry.
Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Back to work. You satisfied yet? We're just getting started. You gotta want it. 1% better every day. Dogs? They want more. Never satisfied. Pursuing a hunger. Always striving for the same thing. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a face. It's a mission.
Our standard is our motivation. Elite don't get bored.
Not just meeting the standard, but raising it, week after week.
There's a standard when you go out here and play that you play to. Today, that's your chance to carry that same standard by what you do. No matter the color, no matter the helmet, no matter the logo, it's about the team.
The grind doesn't stop. The climb never ends. The desire is to pursue better.
Yay. Let's go kick some Wildcat butts.
Yes, sir. So,
My favorite line in that little type video is Elite don't get bored. That's a good line.
yep. No reason to get bored now. No reason to take anybody for granted or anything. Just take advantage of the opportunity in front of you, right?
Always.
Well, like I said, we had a lot of fun tonight. Thank y'all for joining if you tuned in tonight at any point or if you watch in the future. Again, thank you to my partners for getting on here and making this fun for me. And just wanted to tell everyone to share it with 5 of your friends, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Yeah, as Matthew's showing you where it's at, check it out at the bottom. Um, and everyone enjoy this week of college football. We'll be back on here on Sunday to do a recap show and show you the results from our picks. Everyone have a good Friday the 13th. And as always, go dogs.
Go dogs.
Your dogs.